And now we're going to spend a bit of time looking at systems which support electric vehicle charging, coordinate things like load balancing, are able to coordinate things like measuring how much electricity goes into different charge points, and are able to help different charge points talk to each other and operate in a network. So I just thought I'd mention, here are a couple of photos of electric vehicles from apartment buildings in the North Sydney area. We can see a Mercedes EQC on the left and a Hyundai Kona on the right. So also we're seeing electric vehicles come into the buildings now that are not just Teslas, but coming from a number of different brands. So in terms of electric vehicle charging suppliers on the market, there's now a plethora of different systems, software systems that can be used to coordinate electric vehicle charging. In particular, we're interested in the billing software area here, and we'll drill into that a little bit more in this section. So some names of some different EV charging billing systems that correspond to different EV charging installers in the market are here. And we'll go through a few case studies where we look at some of these different software systems helping to coordinate EV charging in apartment buildings. So if we look over at the Zinc building in Alexandria, this is an interesting example of using a number of different tech solutions in this particular building. So if you think about it, this building has a 25 kilowatt solar system for the common areas. It's got 3 electricity monitoring devices permanently installed in the building on different circuits. And now it's got 10 Tesla Generation 3 charge points, which all connect to Wi-Fi. There's Wi-Fi through the car park area, and they've got a flat cable on the perimeter of the car park area. So if people haven't seen a flat cable before, here is a flat cable running down the perimeter of a car parking, underground basement car parking. Now, just to let you know, we're not focused so much on the flat cable today. We're focused more around the load management system that might operate on a set of flat cables, being able to dictate how much power supply is supplied onto different flat cables and manage that during peak periods of electric vehicle charging in the building. So let's have another look at another EV charging case study. We'll go to the Altair building in Potts Point. So this is a building that's used EV box charge points, and they've used Car Charger's dynamic load balancing system, which has software algorithms that manage load balancing at a circuit level. And I will mention that this is one of the buildings that has used Wi-Fi in the basement car park, and they're using Wi-Fi connectivity to the EV box chargers. So just to give you a picture, here's an example of a charge point in the basement car park. And you'll notice that there's only one cable, which is a power cable, going to this charge point. There's no data cable going to this charge point because this charge point connects to a Wi-Fi network. And so it's using Wi-Fi connectivity. And then in the main switch room, you'll have this dynamic load balancing equipment, and that has the software algorithms to be able to manage load balancing on a per circuit level. If, for example, you've got multiple flat cables that need to be managed to not overload at the same time. So let's look at another EV charging case study. This time we'll go to the Richmond building in Piermont. And this is a building that's got 10 Tesla Generation 3 charge points in the basement car park. They've got 2 ChargeFox charge points, and they've got hardware load balancer for the ChargeFox charge points, and they'll be using software load balancing via Wi-Fi for the Tesla charge points. So let's just have a look at some equipment here, some tech solutions in this building. So on the right, you've got a new 70-pole, 160 amp distribution board installed into the basement car park just for the purposes of charging electric vehicles. And then next to this, you have a data connectivity box that can run Ethernet cables from the charge points. The ChargeMate, ChargeFox charge points will use Ethernet cables, which will plug into this box, and they'll also run power cables that plug into this box. And that's repeated on each floor of the basement car park. They've got 3 floors, so they've got 3 sets of these 2 boxes in that particular building. But we should just mention some of the tech solutions that are coming to charge points. So we've noted that some charge points in the market are now becoming Wi-Fi enabled so that you don't need to run data cables to them. But also, the latest Tesla Generation 3 wall charger has the ability to connect to Wi-Fi and get software updates into these charge points that will actually update the functionality of the charge points over time. So that gives you a level of future-proofing that you might not have with a charge point system where you might need a technician to come out to the building and install firmware updates into charge points over time. So the sort of functions that might be able to be rolled out by Tesla via an over-the-air update of the software into these charge points over time might be support for open charge point protocol or support for charging non-Tesla vehicles and creating an open charging platform that can work. And up to 6 of these Tesla charge points can be installed without the need to install any load balancing hardware in the switch room. They can affect software load balancing through using Wi-Fi communications to talk with the different charge points in the network. So again, we're still at the Richmond building. We'll just look at the overall load balancing architecture that they've got here. So they've allocated 100 amps 3-phase for EV charging at the moment. They've got 50 amps 3-phase allocated to the Tesla charging, 50 amps 3-phase allocated to the ChargeFox at the moment, but they could rebalance this over time. And they've got 10 Tesla Generation 3 charge points off Wi-Fi within this 50 amps and 2 charge points with the ChargeFox cloud management system running off that 50 amps. And then they're also future-proof because they've got 2 different management systems for billing and cost recovery. They've got the Tesla system coming online that'll use credit card transaction fees. So people will put their credit card number into a Tesla mobile phone app, and each time they charge, a micropayment will come off their credit card. And then here's the dashboard for the ChargeFox management system. Okay, and now one last example of an EV billing and load balancing software system, again, written here in the local market, is Explorin. And they're doing R&D into load balancing for apartment buildings, but they've got a particular area they're doing some research in, which is if you've got a solar photovoltaic system on the roof of the building, the Explorin EV billing management system will actually detect when that solar photovoltaic system might be doing solar export into the grid, and the R&D is around, instead of sending that solar export out into the grid, diverting that solar power to go into charging electric vehicles that might be sitting at the charge points inside the building during a peak solar generation period.